So this might be a familiar sight to you all. At least it might be if you're familiar with the Mini Clubman, which is exactly what I was just sitting in. You see, I thought it'd be fun to bring this car back out here and do another video on comparing the Mini Clubman to the Mini Countryman. Unfortunately, while I don't have a replacement for the Mini Clubman, I do have one for the Mini Countryman. So are these vehicles still very, very different? Well, yes, they are now, but they're still technically family cars that Mini makes, and I thought it'd be fun to show them side by side. So let's get to it. So this is a 2025 Mini Countryman S All-4, and that is a 2024 Mini Cooper Clubman S All-4. Now, yes, they are very, very different, and yet apparently they aren't. You see, this is the UK L2 platform, the previous car, the F54. It shared a lot of its underpinnings with the F60. This car is the U25, which shares its underpinnings with the X1, at least at the front, and it shares its underpinnings with the 2 Series Active Tourer at the rear. Now, just so you all know, the reason why they did that is because if they shared the full underpinning from the X1, this would be, you could probably put a third row back there more than likely. It would have been too big, and they didn't want to do that. So they combined platforms for 2 different vehicles to give you the lovely Mini silhouette that you've come to know and love, at least the Countryman silhouette that you've come to know and love. And yes, it looks very much like a Countryman right there. But this also is a silhouette we all love. This is the F54 Clubman, the most beautiful vehicle that Mini's ever made, the 4-door station wagon. And I know station wagon's a dirty word to some people out there, but this was just a great, great vehicle. Now, of course, inside the Clubman, you find the beautiful black pearl cloth interior with 8-speed automatic. You have paddle shifters up here on your steering wheel. Very, very nice place to be. Of course, you have 4 doors, so you have plenty of space in the rear as well. And I have the seat set up as me driving the car, so my 5'9" self fits back here pretty comfortably. Short trips, pretty easy. If you spread out a little bit, you could do long trips pretty comfortably, I think. Nice little sunroof overhead. I like that. Light headliner, so very bright in here as well. You also have this nice piano black trim around the car. And of course, when you get to the rear, you have the barn doors. A great feature to have on any car. I think every car should have barn doors. Well, as long as it's a Mini Clubman, it should have barn doors. But I digress. And I just closed the wrong door. You see, this is something most people don't know. You have to close the driver's side one before you can close the passenger side one. Or you have to close the left one before you can close the right one. Just one of those things. And for those of you who didn't know this, also, the Clubman lettering is actually off-centered, which is kind of a funny little thing there, but I digress. So yeah, plenty of storage space, plenty of passenger space, plenty of everything you could possibly want. And if you go under the hood, you have a 189 horsepower, 205 foot-pounds of torque, B46 motor. And there it is. Doesn't look that much different. In fact, if I go and pop the hood on that, you'll see that it doesn't look much different. But that one actually does have a much different motor now. So let's get to that car. Now over here is our favorite U25 Countryman. This is finished in Nanook white, completely Nanook white, even the roof, with 19-inch kaleidoscope wheels. Nice little accents here and there. Let's go over here and look at this. So we have the vibrant silver, which really looks like gold grille trim. We have the new headlights. We have the new trim cladding here. We got the new mirror caps. We got everything. It's basically a brand new car. And then you get inside, you got this very interesting blue-green, really interesting blue-green interior. That's an interesting color combo to go with this car. And then the new cloth dash. Very nice as well. And fun fact, this is actually feels much more solid than I thought it would. And some people have been complaining about this, but this is actually a very solid dashboard. I like that. Now, of course, if you get to the back of the car, specifically the trunk, power lift gate, of course, you have much more cargo space than you had in the previous Countryman, and even more cargo space than you had in the previous Clubman. And then, of course, push that and it closes. You also have a receiver hitch back there as well, which is why if you have a receiver hitch on a Mini Countryman, you get 2 reverse lights. If you have none of that, you just get one. Coming around to the rear of the car, I have the seat set up for me to drive. If I get in here, now in this, I actually have a lot more leg room. There's a lot more space back here than in the Clubman, which is very, very nice. Come down here, USB-C, you have your vent controls for your vents, and it's just very comfortable. You also have an automatic sunshade now instead of a sliding one that you have to manually pull close. So that's a nice luxury touch there. Black headliner, very nice interior. You got this brown for the door panels on the rear, and then it fades to that green up front, which is a neat look. And if we get to the front of the vehicle, we have JCW bucket seats, because now all of them except for classic trim get fixed headrests, so basically the JCW seats, and their power. So if we get in the car, we are now in a very, very comfortable place. This is very comfortable, and we have a sliding armrest that you can actually use like a normal armrest. There we go. We don't have our elbow resting on it. We have our full arm resting on it. However, we don't have a shifter there, but that's not necessarily a terrible thing. We also have a storage bin right there, wireless charging for your phone right here, your shifter right here, and your starter right there. And that new round screen right here. And yes, while it does look very similar to this round screen, you will notice that this one does not have touch up here, or technically down here, but it does have touch right there, and it has this nice big wide screen. But the whole screen is effectively, this whole circle is effectively a screen in the Countryman. I wonder what the Clubman would look like if they had redesigned it with the newer cars. That would have been interesting. Now, of course, sitting in the Countryman, it is pretty different, really. It still feels like a Mini, but you don't have an instrument binnacle right there. You do have a lovely head-up display right there, which works incredibly well. I have my mileage up there, my speed, that is, and my fuel, and how fast I'm going. So I can see all of that right there quite clearly. And if I put the camera actually so you can see it, you'll see what I'm seeing. So it's flickering, but there it is. This does not have the autonomous driving mode, because if it did, there would be a little sensor right there that would be blinking back at you while the car is running. It's a nice car though. Nice steering controls here. The buttons work really well. I love the screen. Now, if we go to the engine of this car, you will find something quite different. Same, but different. This is the B48 2-liter turbocharged motor. And no, it's not 189 horsepower anymore. It is 241 with 295 pound-feet of torque. So this has more horsepower, more torque, but yes, it does have more weight. Even with all that, the speed of this car is still pretty quick. It still accelerates very nicely. It's just a great vehicle. But what's funny is if you look at some of the other underpinnings here, you'll notice very similar looking to the previous car. Not much has changed there. This is still a B48 engine. This engine, if I just zoomed in on the engine and then showed you that car, you would think it's the same engine. They really do look very similar. You also have a different way of closing the hood. I figured this out. The clamshell bonnets on the new Coopers, you can still drop them like you did with the old cars, but on the new ones with this hood, you have to basically bring it up and throw in order to shut it. And there you go. But yes, very much still a Mini. And what's great about it is you can look at this car and this car, and you can see the elements that they share. The projectors are still unmistakable. Yes, this is more of a trapezoidal shape, but the curves are still there. It still has lines that identify it as a Mini Cooper. You're not going to mistake this for anything else. And if you try to tell me it looks like a RAV4, I'm going to laugh in your face, because it doesn't. It doesn't look like a Kia. It doesn't look like a Hyundai. It doesn't look like any other crossover vehicle out there, because it's a bloody Mini. So get that through your heads. It's a Mini. And no, Mini is not a car, it's a brand. So there's that as well. Now, if you're going to argue with me about the size of this car compared to the previous F60, yes, it is bigger than the previous F60. But by how much? Well, I don't have an F60 out here to do a comparison, but I have done the thing I call the can I see over it test. And usually that means if I can see over the vehicle, it's not a very large car. Case in point, here is the Clubman. Now naturally, I can see over this vehicle just fine. It's not a large car, never has been, never will be. I'm 5'9". Here's the new Countryman. Yeah, I can still see over it. Now, if you were 6'4", you definitely could see over it, but I can see over just fine. I'm taller than the car, so there's that. So as far as this being a big vehicle, it really isn't. It really isn't a big car. It's a small car. It's a small crossover, sport activity vehicle, whatever you want to call it. Another neat thing about this car, the door handles are actually used with other BMW models and even the new electric J01 and Mini Aceman over in Europe. So it's a standard door handle, but it works really well with the style of the vehicle. Now, yes, if it were more along the lines of this old style, then having the chrome door handles that stick out from the body would make more sense. But in this case, it really doesn't. It makes more sense to do a very flat, ooh, interesting. I just locked it. A very flat shape. Now, yes, it is a much different style. The wheel arches are cut differently. That new body contour right there. Very nice line. You'll notice that it doesn't have a clamshell bonnet. Of course it doesn't. It is a different car. It also has a more upright aesthetic. And we'll get into this comparison between this and the F60 Countryman at some point. But comparing these two, I thought it'd be fun, as both of them are technically family Mini Coopers. So if you're looking for something sporty to drive that you can take your family in, both of these are perfect. This one's actually for sale right now. Well, so is that one, but this one's for sale right now. It's a retired service loaner, but it's in coral red with the multi-tone roof. So pretty nice. So I like both of them. I think this car is incredibly fun to drive. I like driving the old Clubmans. I think they're great cars. They're just really good vehicles. The details are nice, very sporty. However, there is something about the new Countryman I really like. Now, I haven't driven the JCW variant yet, and I intend to at some point. But if I had to pick one to take home right now, and they were just giving the car to me, that's a tough one. Do I say goodbye to the old generation and hello to the new generation? I don't know. Maybe we'll let the driving tell me. Oh, it has Harman Kardon. Until next time, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see, check out more content on this channel at the end of this video. Now, this thing does have sport mode here. Go-kart. Here we go. See, I like that sound. I don't know what he's saying about it. And here we go.